Homelessness 2.0 day 15. Today's an interesting day because right now at I think it's around 10:30, I have to actually check a clock. Here, let me go ahead and check a clock instead of just trying to turn my phone around or something. Yeah, just about 10:30. Um, I'm drinking my cup of, I was gonna say milk. It's not milk, it's Coke. And just finished a grilled cheese sandwich. Later, gonna make some more of my chicken and bacon and noodles and marinara sauce. Ooh, showing you my shoulder. I got a phone call with my therapist today, which I feel, honestly, especially since I'm only doing them like once a month, kind of a waste of time, but whatever. But also today's, I was going to go to the DMV to see about the written test, but at the same time, I don't know how long that's going to take, and I have to do this phone call because I don't even know when I would get another phone call. So, I'm wait to do that tomorrow. But also, something that's been on my mind for the last several days is this whole Rittenhouse defense thing. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to hear more about this. And that's okay if you don't want to. But my thoughts are mixed. See, when I first heard about it, I was very much in the camp of, oh my God, he went to a city to go shoot people. He brought a gun over the state lines, which he didn't do. You know, he was there to shoot people, blah, blah, blah. And then, after watching some videos, not just of the incident itself, or incidents, watched quite a bit of footage after the fact. I watched this one video talking about self-defense and how it changes from moment to moment in a lot of ways. And it really had me thinking about that. It had me thinking about, and it was talking about that circumstance. And then there were other lawyer, and it was a lawyer. Now, I mean, he's a very pro-gun lawyer, but at the same time, I kind of get it. Other lawyers talking about the circumstances and sort of breaking it down. And more information about the legalities of it all had me change my disposition. I thought, well, okay, this isn't as black as white as I thought it was. Now, I went from extreme, oh my God, he's straight fucking guilty, to less, to a more moderate, he might not be. And one might say, oh, well, you should have been all the way to he's straight up innocent. And it's like, he's not innocent, though. He did kill these people. He did injure, I can never remember his damn name, I call him Bicep Boy. He did injure Bicep Boy. Innocent is when you didn't do it at all. That's how that works. Now, there are people who automatically claimed he was a patriot, that he was defending property and blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the gray lines throughout this whole thing, is that defending property, and it doesn't matter that he drove across state lines in this case, because he literally lived 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away. I lived in the same county in Texas, and my job was a 45-mile drive sometime. Well, okay, that one was specifically in a different county, but it was right on the border. But okay, my last job when I lived in Texas as a security guard was a 30-minute drive. I was still living in the same, I was living and working in the same county. People who live in the United States understand this, yet at the same time, somehow don't. Not every city, not every principality, not every region is like a major city. Driving across state lines, while there are different laws across those states, it doesn't automatically change things just because. Now, had he had a gun on him when crossing state lines, that would have changed things. But he didn't. And that was the first piece of information that kind of like wrenched my brain. Because I was like, but I want him to be guilty. But he's not guilty of that thing that would have made my case really strong. Cognitive dissonance 101. And then you find out that he's kind of allowed to carry the gun, but he's also kind of not allowed to because Wisconsin is an open carry state. But at the same time, a teenager, a minor is allowed to carry a gun, but also not allowed to carry a gun under certain circumstances. And that charge has been dropped by the judge anyway, which a lot of, and part of one of the reasons I went to go to see to the conservative side of things this past weekend is because of this. I mean, it's been on my mind in the last year anyway, but like within the last, I want to say month or two, it's been kind of like cropping up more and more. And I hadn't truly understood why I was thinking about it. Now, part of it, I'm sure, was a smattering of details here and there about it. And so the more information, and then obviously once the trial actually started, more and more information was coming out. Obviously, I was more and more involved in it. And the Bicep Boy testimonial seemed pretty damning. But it got me thinking about something that I haven't really seen people talking about. Some would say is irrelevant, and I would say is definitely not, is the people who were shot by Kyle Rittenhouse. Their motives have not been properly explained. Now, of course, two of them you can't, because they're dead. So when I was on the conservative subreddit before I got banned, because apparently I didn't kiss Trump's ass, because everything else didn't ban me. Like, they literally linked me to the comment that I made that got me banned, and it was me shitting on Trump. So if you want to be part of the conservative subreddit, you have to kiss Donald Trump's ass. Sorry, but worst president in my lifetime. But when I was trying to have conversations about this, because again, I hold certain conservative ideals. This is why I am a centrist, more left-leaning than right-leaning. It's why I'm able to pull up these things out of my ass. It's why I'm able to have these conversations. And I would ask, why would somebody threaten a man with a gun? Who in their right mind, prior to the events, would verbally threaten a person with a gun? Then later, why would that same person attack that person with the gun when they don't have a gun themselves? This is one of the things that I find interesting about, especially the right side of this whole argument, is that, look around, find out. Just like so many other things that have been going on, right? You bring a fist to a gunfight, you're going to die. Well, of course you are. But why? Why would somebody do that? People on the left-hand side can't even fucking figure that part out because they're not talking about it. Because again, they're only talking about Rittenhouse. And to me, that is the real problem in this whole thing. And I think it illustrates what's actually happening. You see, whether or not Video doesn't tell you everything. It tells you most. It's more reliable than most things, but it cannot tell you intent. Unless you literally say your intent on video, which did in fact occur, and then, of course, for whatever reason, that information was quashed by the judge. Rittenhouse is recorded saying weeks prior, as there is a CVS being apparently looted, that he would like to shoot those people with an AR. That has been recorded and it has been thrown around the internet. Bicep Boy has been said, like, the damning evidence is there is a post by a friend of his saying that he should have just killed him. And while that hearsay may be factual, one of those is premeditation, one of those is not. And a lot of people are ignoring that, especially people on the right, who want Rittenhouse to be like this patriot, this godsend of self-defense. And that information, when I found out about that, I was like, oh. So I started way over here of he is straight up illegally doing everything that he's been doing, and he needs to rot in fucking jail, to it might actually be, legally permitted to self-defense, to there might actually be some mens rea, some guilty mind here. Like, when I went to jail after tweeting a bomb threat because I wanted suicide by cop, they didn't find anything to support mens rea for me. You see, when the prosecutor was trying to argue theirs, and this was during the arraignment, which is very different here in Los Angeles than it was back when I was living in Texas. Like, arraignment was, you just stood before the judge at the jail, and then they would, let you put in a not guilty plea or something like that. I mean, you're still in the jailhouse, and the judge was just in this, like, bulletproof, like, weird, almost like control room. It was strange. But in this one, I was literally in a courtroom with a public defender who was like, I read up on this, I think it's whole horse shit. It's obvious, blah, blah, blah. But then when the prosecutor gets up, the prosecutor is like, he's going to be a danger to not only himself, but to others. And I'm like, the fuck? Did you read my tweet? I literally even say in the tweet, now I've deleted it subsequently, but like, I was like, hey, at this time, I'm going to, plan an explosive or whatever, and, now please come kill me. That was in the tweet. I wanted to die, suicide by cop. Nevertheless, despite what was actually in the tweet, the prosecutor was effectively trying to create mens rea, to try to create a guilty mind. Because, and you may not know this, but maybe you'll know it now, it's not about finding the truth. It's about winning. Our justice system is not about finding justice. It's not about finding the truth. It's about who can be more convincing and win. That is what our justice system is. And knowing that, with the more information that I acquire, and also specific biases, desires of mine, I don't personally care. And I don't mean it in the say, oh, fuck you kind of, I don't care. But like, I don't have, I don't care what happens to Kyle Rittenhouse. His life in so many ways is forfeit. It doesn't matter if he is acquitted or if he's found guilty. His life is fucked over forever. His name is associated with one of the most divisive but also crucial judgments of our time. And that is one of the reasons why I've been thinking about it so much, is because of how pivotal this is. You see, right now, with how divisive this country is, and how much people don't want to not be divisive, they want to remain divisive. And with so much that has happened in the past several years, this is going to help. This is going to help create that, or, maintain and spread that divisiveness. We are looking at a chasm that no matter what happens after today, it will widen. It doesn't matter. If he's found guilty, there will be people on the right. It's not all of them, of course, but it will be significant, who will end up carrying their guns in public with protests. This will happen. Now, of course, National Guard has been dispatched to Kenosha and I believe some surrounding areas. But that part doesn't really scare me as much. What scares me is the law. And obviously, if he's found, not guilty, then there will be people who are going to be protesting, of course. And where there's protests, there will be riots. People like to claim they're both exactly the same. It's not. Most of the people, you can claim otherwise, but there's plenty of video evidence showing that the Black Lives Matter protests that happened last year were insurmountably peaceful. Very few guns were in attendance. Most people were wearing masks, even though it was during a damn pandemic. And while presence is a kind of force, because that is on the literal scale of force. I mean, that's the whole point of what my job was as a security guard was. First level of force is presence. And you can increase that presence with things like uniforms and guns, for instance. Carrying a gun, by the way, is a show of force. You can't argue that. It's literally part of the protocol. That's what you do. This is why so many people don't like open carry laws, by the way. Because now these people are legally allowed to be intimidating, to be showing a level of force. The average person is not even allowed to carry handcuffs, by the way, because they could be used as a weapon. They could be harmful. Most people don't talk about that either. You have to be licensed, trained to carry handcuffs on your person. Same thing with batons. Same thing with oleoresin capsaicin spray. The pepper spray that cops and security guards will carry. That thing that you get at the grocery store ain't shit. It barely has, mace will fuck you up, especially in like close quarters. I was in the subway in Hollywood at one point, and there was this domestic dispute that was going on. A girl sprayed mace on the other end of the train car, and we felt it moments later. We had to get the hell off because it was bad. Anyway, the thing is that we also, with regards to that, we have relaxed our rules and laws regarding the safety and perceived safety by allowing things like open carry. You can argue till you're blue in the face, but the fact remains that the average person does not perceive a gun and think they are safe from that person, which is indicative of the people at the protest slash riot in Kenosha when Rittenhouse was there. I'm going to get to the end. I'm going to get to my conclusion at this point. I have fluctuated throughout all of this. Originally, I hated the kid. Now, I give no shits. What I cared more about was the law. At one point, I only cared about the letter of the law. But now I care about more than just the letter of the law. I care about the future. We are in divisive times right now. It will become more divided. No matter what happens to this case, tonight, you will see people on the streets. Depending on the verdict, they will be carrying guns or they won't. And the future that I want has fewer guns in it. It has fewer guns that are visible. It has fewer guns that are available. It just has fewer guns. Not to mention that the use of those guns, and I pretty much mentioned this before, I think, in a previous one. I'm almost certain now. Like, if you have guns, if you have a gun collection, it's not supposed to be on site, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I talked about this. I want a future where you're not allowed to be a Kyle Rittenhouse. Because I want the person who thinks they can go into a hotbed carrying a gun to really reconsider that thought. I'm not saying that we need to give more rights to rioters, because obviously most of the people who were there at that point, well, maybe not most of the people who were on tape, because that's also another thing. People will record, especially the bad stuff. And when the bad stuff is perceived to be the status quo, because we are humans after all, and there's a specific bias for it, and I can't remember, but basically we don't like the negative stuff, so we focus on the negative stuff because it makes rational sense to focus on the negative stuff so that you fix it. I don't want this case to establish that you can do what he did and be legally allowed to do it. I want this case to try and look at the future and say, we need less of that, not more. And so, I don't care what happens to Rittenhouse, but I do want him to be found guilty. Because no matter what happens with this divide, I would rather divide, hopefully, ideally, and of course, there will be, if he is found guilty, then there will be plenty of states, especially very red states, who will then start enacting their own laws after the fact. That's also going to happen. If he's found innocent, then there's going to be other states, especially very blue states, who are going to start making their laws that are going to be, antithetical and effectively try to make it that way. Then if he's found guilty, there's going to be more red-related states who are going to try to basically make it to where what he did could be legal enough where you don't even have to worry about it. That's also another part of it. But if he's found guilty, then there's precedent. And I want the precedent, because that's the direction I want my country to go. I want my country to go in the direction where you rethink going into a hotbed of unrest, where you think to yourself, maybe I shouldn't do that because it's probably not a good idea. Those are my thoughts. That's what I've been thinking about. And I'm effectively getting nothing done again today. Because that's what happens when you have ADD and anxiety about the future and you have appointments that you have to keep, and then you can't do anything for the rest of the damn day because of X, Y, and Z. Have fun with that.